Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Darren McCall. I'm 49 years old, and for almost 3 decades, I've been in construction, hands in the dirt, boots on concrete, sweat on steel. I worked my way from labor to site supervisor for one of the largest regional firms in Central Texas, Hemdale Infrastructure. Bridges, schools, clinics, I helped raise them all. My name might not be on the plaques, but my signature's in every beam and bolt. Or it was, until 3 months ago. That was the morning Clint Travers walked into my trailer with a smug smile and a folder thick with lies. "Darren, we're going with a new supplier on the Willow Creek Elementary project," he said, like it was just another Tuesday. "More efficient. Cost-effective." I took one look at the specs and felt my gut tighten. The concrete mix he'd approved was off, 30% below the PSI strength listed in the bid contract. Below code, below safety, below dignity. It wouldn't stand 10 years under Texas sun and children's feet. Hell, it wouldn't last 5. "This isn't what we agreed on," I said, flipping through the pages. "You're cutting corners, Clint." Clint gave me that corporate smile, tight-lipped and hollow. "Come on, Darren. You know how this game works. The mix technically passes inspection." "Barely. No one needs to know unless you make it an issue." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd warned him before. 2 projects back, he swapped rebar quality mid-pour. Creative solutions, he called it. I let that one slide, barely. But this? For an elementary school? A literal foundation under children's feet? "No," I said. "This mix fails the original load calculations. I'm not signing off." He stood there for a moment. Silent. Then shrugged. "Then maybe we need someone else to run the site." I'd worked for Hemdale for 24 years. Built a reputation for doing it right. Never had a structure fail. Never lost a man on my watch. But Clint wasn't interested in legacy. Just margins. He left, and I sat there staring at those specs for a long time. I thought of my late father. He taught me this trade, brick by brick. He died with his boots on, proud that his work stood the test of time. And I thought of my daughter, Maya, just turned 15. What if it were her school? That evening, I showed the specs to my wife, Janice. She didn't even hesitate. "Then you have to walk," she said. "We'll figure out the money. But you can't build something you don't believe in." I walked into the site the next morning and handed Clint the specs. "I'm not pouring garbage into a foundation. You want someone to cut corners? Find another guy." He grinned, didn't even argue. "You're fired." That was it. After 24 years of loyalty. Gone. As I packed up my gear, I noticed a few of the crew watching through the window. One of them, Will, a junior supervisor I trained, looked like he wanted to say something but didn't. He turned away. But what Clint didn't know. I'd already started recording. Not for revenge. Not yet. For protection. For truth. Because I'd seen the cracks in the walls months before, both literally and metaphorically. Losing the job was expected. What I didn't expect was how fast the industry turned on me. 3 days after Clint fired me, I started calling around. Old friends. Fellow foremen. Contractors I'd helped out when they were behind schedule or short-staffed. I figured my reputation would open some doors. It always had. But the doors didn't just stay closed. They slammed shut. "Darren, I'd hire you in a heartbeat," said Rick out at Trailstone Builders. "But I already got a call from Hemdale. Word is, you're a liability. A liability. For refusing to pour junk concrete under a school." Another guy, Luis, sounded nervous just taking my call. You know how it is, man. Clint's got pull with the licensing board. He gets wind I brought you on. Next inspection might not go so smooth. In just a week, my name, 24 years of honest work, was poison. Even my union rep wouldn't return my emails. I wasn't just fired. I was blacklisted. And it didn't stop there. By the weekend, whispers started reaching my neighborhood. The school project was on hold pending an internal dispute. Hemdale's PR machine painted me as a disgruntled former employee trying to sabotage progress. My daughter Maya came home quiet from school Monday afternoon. "Dad," she said, setting her backpack down slowly, "Katie's mom said you got fired for being difficult. She said people are mad 'cause you're stopping the school from getting built." I swallowed hard. "Did she say anything to you?" Maya shook her head. She just looked at me weird. Like we're bad people. That broke me more than the blacklist. I spent the next few days holed up at the kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork, texts, and every job site photo I'd saved. Janice kept asking if I was okay. Truth was, I didn't know. Clint hadn't just taken my job, he was taking my name, my honor. He was turning my family into collateral damage. That night, I sat in my truck in the driveway, staring at the same specs Clint had shoved on me. I thought about everything I stood to lose, our mortgage, our health insurance, Maya's future. For a second, I thought about letting it all go. Just moving on. But then I remembered something my dad once said, the night a beam collapsed on a site we walked off from because it wasn't safe. A man can always get another job. But once you give up your name, you're done. And I realized, I hadn't lost everything. I still had the truth. And more importantly, I had proof. Emails. Purchase orders. Invoices. And phone video. I'd been documenting Clint's corner cutting for weeks. Not out of revenge, but because I knew a storm was coming. That night, I opened a fresh folder on my laptop and labeled it Project Integrity, D. McCall. I wasn't sure yet how far I'd take this. But I knew one thing. If Clint thought firing me ended the story, he had no idea what was coming. It started with a spreadsheet. I was organizing files one night when I remembered something Clint had said offhand a few months back. This new supplier's gonna save us $60K across 3 sites if we use M on all the slabs. 3 sites. I pulled up my old emails and went digging. Sure enough, I found the purchase orders, not just for Willow Creek Elementary, but for a medical center parking structure and a new wing of the Morrison Community Center. All 3 were built under Clint's oversight. All 3 used that same sketchy supplier. And all 3 had quietly deviated from the specs. I nearly dropped my coffee. This wasn't just about one school. This was a pattern. A deliberate, strategic pattern. The next morning, I reached out to an old friend, Marcus Vale, a structural engineer I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. He'd moved on to consulting work in Austin, but we'd collaborated back when he was with the inspection office. The man lived and breathed integrity. I told him everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. His voice got real quiet on the other end. "Darren, you might have just walked into something huge." "What do you mean?" "I was just hired by an insurance firm to investigate a cracked foundation at a commercial building in Arlington. Guess who built it?" "No." "Yup, Hemdale." "And guess what supplier they used?" "Same one. The concrete tested at about 60% of claimed strength. That's criminal fraud." I leaned back in my chair, heart thudding. "You think it's systemic?" "I think it's been going on for at least 4 years. That's when I knew this wasn't about me anymore. This was about public safety. Children. Patients. Elderly folks walking into community centers. If those foundations failed, people would die. I called the Fort Worth Building Inspection Office and scheduled a meeting with Chief Beverly Rayner. She knew me well, worked with me on more than a dozen sites over the years. When I showed up with my evidence, she raised an eyebrow. "This is serious," she said, flipping through the folder. "Are you sure about these numbers?" I was. Beverly didn't waste time. She picked up her desk phone and called in a structural audit team. "We're halting the Willow Creek project pending an investigation. And if what you say holds up, Darren, this might not stop with just Clint." As I walked out of that office, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. I'd cracked open something big. But now, I had to live with it. The backlash came fast. That same evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed quiet. This wasn't your fight." Then came the online rumors. Anonymous posts on contractor forums calling me unstable, vindictive, even accusing me of sabotage. My reputation, my only currency in this business, was being shredded in real time. Then Janice got a call from Maya's school. Parents were complaining, accusing me of delaying construction out of spite. One even told the principal I was endangering the whole community just to play hero. That was the lowest moment yet. But I wasn't alone. Kevin, one of the junior supervisors who'd watched me get fired, called late that night. He'd heard about the investigation. He was scared. "Darren," he whispered, "they're trying to destroy you." "They already tried," I said. "But they didn't count on me having proof." He was quiet a moment. Then said, "What do you need me to do?" That's when I realized. Clint had silenced a lot of people with fear. But fear cuts both ways. Kevin met me at a diner off Berry Street. He looked tired, like a man who'd been keeping secrets for too long. We sat in a corner booth under a flickering ceiling light, coffee steaming between us. "They're working us 16-hour shifts," he said. "Trying to fast-track other projects before the city shuts more down. Clint's unhinged, he's blaming you for everything. Says you're trying to tank Hemdale." I stared into my mug. "I'm trying to keep kids from getting buried under drywall." Kevin nodded slowly. Then he slipped a flash drive across the table. "These are texts, emails, photos. I've been backing up everything in case this blew up." I opened my laptop and scrolled through the files, Clint messaging supervisors with orders to adjust inspection windows, changing suppliers without approval, literally instructing crews to pour early to avoid sample testing. "This is gold," I said. "But I need more. Witnesses." Kevin sighed. "There's 5 or 6 guys I trust. They're scared, Darren. They've got kids, mortgages, just like you did. They also have a choice," I said. "Stand by and let this continue, or step up and help stop it before someone gets hurt." Kevin tapped the table. "If we do this, we need protection. Legal. Anonymous testimony, maybe whistleblower status." I nodded. "I'll find us a lawyer." That night, I emailed David Roy, the investigative reporter from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He'd contacted me once already, sniffing around the school project. This time, I was ready to talk. The next day, he met me in my backyard. Sat with his laptop, notebook, and an expression that said he knew this story could blow open the whole industry. "David," I told him, "you're not just chasing a bad batch of concrete. This is fraud, cover-ups, and maybe criminal neglect. I've got documents, recordings, and witnesses who'll talk, if they're protected." He leaned forward. "You've got the receipts." "I've got the damn ledger." David's eyes lit up. "Let me bring in someone from legal. We'll start building a case for public release." "But if you're right? Hemdale's not just losing contracts. They're facing criminal indictments." By that weekend, I had 3 more crew members ready to come forward. I connected them to David's legal team and a whistleblower attorney named Farah Patel, who specialized in corporate fraud. She was a shark in a blazer. "They retaliate," she said on our first call. They'll regret it in court. Things were moving now. I could feel the gears grinding. We were documenting every move, every lie Clint had told to push this scheme forward. But Clint wasn't backing down. Sunday evening, Janice found a brick in our mailbox. Wrapped in duct tape. Written in Sharpie across the front. Builders build. Snitches sink. I called the police. Filed a report. But I knew the message wasn't just for me. It was for everyone thinking about standing with me. So I called Kevin and the others. We met again, this time in a church basement offered up by one of the crew's uncles. Neutral ground. No eyes. I laid out the plan. We'd coordinate our statements. Back each other's claims. Submit hard evidence to both the city inspector's office and David's paper. If Clint wanted a war, he was about to get one on two fronts. "Are you sure we can beat this guy?" one of the younger guys asked. I looked around at them, all scared, all tired, but still there. "Yes," I said. "Because truth is stronger than concrete. And we've got both." The first hammer dropped on a Tuesday. The Fort Worth Inspection Department issued a stop work order not just for Willow Creek Elementary, but for 3 other Hemdale projects across the city. Officially, the reason was, pending safety review of foundational integrity. Unofficially, it was the beginning of the end. Kevin called me right after. "Clint's losing it. He started screaming in the trailer, said someone's leaking internal documents." Then he threw his phone at the wall. I smiled. Sounds like a man realizing the walls are closing in. By Thursday, Beverly Rayner had launched a formal multi-site audit. Lab results from early core samples revealed exactly what we feared: multiple buildings were sitting on concrete up to 40% below required strength. Worse, there were falsified documents suggesting the materials had passed internal testing. David Roy published the first article in the Star-Telegram the following Monday. Foundation of Lies: How Hemdale Infrastructure Prioritized Profits Over Safety. It hit like a bomb. Within 24 hours, the school board held an emergency meeting. 2 city council members publicly demanded a criminal inquiry. Talk radio hosts were calling it one of the biggest construction scandals in Texas history. Then came the retaliation. Clint went nuclear. Someone hacked my email. Someone else posted my home address online with false accusations, calling me an anti-business extremist, trying to destroy honest workers. But that wasn't the worst of it. Late one evening, I got a call from Janice. She was in tears. Maya was followed home after school. What? Some guy in a black SUV. She noticed him circling the block. He drove off when she ran inside. My fists clenched so tight I could barely hold the phone. This was beyond intimidation. This was a warning. I called the cops. Again. Then I called Farah, our whistleblower attorney. "Time to go public," she said. "All of you. Full names, full stories. The only way to protect yourselves now is to shine a bigger light than they can hide from." So we did. That weekend, David Roy ran a front-page exposé, complete with interviews from Kevin, 3 other crew members, 2 engineers, and me. We told everything. Names. Dates. Orders. Fraud. And how it all tied back to Clint. And that's when something wild happened. A former city inspector came forward, retired just last year. Claimed Clint had pressured him to overlook concerns during previous builds. Even hinted at bribes. And then, finally, law enforcement moved. A joint task force from the city and state launched a criminal probe. Clint's home and Hemdale's regional office were raided. Boxes of documents seized. Digital records copied. That same day, a news helicopter caught footage of Clint being escorted into an unmarked sedan in front of his building. Kevin called me, almost laughing. We actually did it, Darren. Holy hell, we really did it. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because Clint had one more move. The next morning, I got a call from Maya's principal. Mr. McCall, we received an anonymous complaint accusing you of falsifying safety reports. It also included an altered document. What? That's a lie. I believe you, she said. But we're required to notify the district and investigate. Clint was trying to frame me. Even from the shadows, he wanted to drag me down with him. I hung up, furious, and more determined than ever. That night, I opened my garage and pulled out the 3 binders I hadn't shown anyone yet. The original spec books, contracts, and job site safety logs from my last 3 years with Hemdale, meticulously recorded. Clint might have had money. But I had the truth. And I had time. The trial came faster than expected. 3 civil lawsuits merged into one federal case, backed by the city and the state's attorney general. Hemdale's lawyers tried to delay, to settle quietly, but the public backlash was too loud, too angry, too far gone. And Clint? He finally showed his face again, clean-shaven, wearing an expensive suit, pretending he hadn't nearly buried a school beneath lies. I sat in the courtroom, just 2 rows behind the plaintiff's table. Beside me sat Kevin, Farah, and 2 former engineers who'd quit over management interference years ago. Now they were here, ready to testify. The prosecution laid out everything. Altered contracts. Internal emails. Failed concrete test results. It was damning. But Clint's defense? Predictable. Darren McCall is a disgruntled ex-employee. He fabricated evidence. Twisted context. Misinterpreted perfectly legal substitutions. This was a personal vendetta. Their strategy? Paint me as unstable. Bitter. Emotional. Then Clint's attorney made a fatal mistake. He requested I be called to the stand. I stepped up, heart pounding, but steady. I had been waiting for this moment since the morning Clint tossed those specs on my desk like I didn't know what they meant. Mr. McCall, the lawyer asked, arms folded, smug as a banker with a bailout. Isn't it true you were warned about consequences if you defied management orders? Yes. And yet you refused to follow approved materials protocol. I refused to follow an order that endangered children. So you admit you intentionally sabotaged your employer? I leaned into the microphone. No. I protected the people who'd have to live in the buildings we built. He scoffed. Let's talk about your so-called proof. These texts, these documents, how can the court verify their authenticity? Easy, I said. Because I didn't just keep texts. And then I pulled out the flash drive. Your Honor, Farah stood, with the court's permission, we'd like to enter audio evidence into the record, recorded on site, with visible time stamps and witness confirmation. Permission was granted. They played the audio, Clint's voice, unmistakable, barking orders. Just pour it. No need to run it through full code, inspection guys coming Wednesday. It'll be done by then. The board only cares about timelines. Safety is just a checklist. Let Darren whine. We'll replace him when he gets too self-righteous. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the judge looked stunned. Clint's lawyer tried to object, to claim the tapes were selectively edited. Farah fired back with a second set of audio. A full team meeting, recorded weeks before I was fired, Clint joking about cutting rebar length by 12% to save steel. Then came the financials. Kickbacks from the concrete supplier, disguised as consulting bonuses. It wasn't just fraud. It was criminal conspiracy. When the prosecution rested, Clint's team didn't even mount a defense. They couldn't. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury came back in less than 2 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Wire fraud. Endangering public welfare. Falsifying safety reports. Conspiracy to commit fraud. But the twist didn't end there. After the verdict, as we exited the courtroom, David Roy, the journalist, approached me with his cameraman in tow. "You look like a man with a weight lifted," he said. "I feel like I can breathe again." He grinned. "You may want to hold on to that breath for just a minute more." He turned his laptop toward me and pulled up an email from the State Board of Professional Licensing. Hemdale's license permanently revoked. They weren't just facing lawsuits. They were out of business. And Clint? Sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. Full restitution to the families affected by structural damage. Personal assets frozen. He looked pale when the handcuffs clicked shut. As for me, I got a letter the following week, from the school board. The envelope was heavy, thicker than normal mail. Inside, a formal letter from the Willow Creek School District. Mr. Darren McCall. We'd be honored to have you return, not only as site supervisor, but as lead consultant to oversee the full rebuild of Willow Creek Elementary, with final authority over all material approvals and contractor hires. I just sat there, stunned. I wasn't just being offered a job. I was being offered a chance to finish what I started. To do it right. I showed it to Janice, and her eyes welled up. "I knew they'd see who you are," she whispered. 2 weeks later, I was back at the site. The caution tape was gone. New concrete trucks were lined up, using certified, premium-grade mix that passed every test. No shortcuts. No creative substitutions. As I walked the foundation, clipboard in hand, I saw my daughter Maya waving from the school gate. Her class was doing a local heroes project, and she'd chosen me. My throat tightened. Not because I wanted the praise. But because everything I'd fought for was standing in front of me, on solid ground. Months passed. Then came the grand opening. Clean white walls. Safe hallways. Solid foundations. Parents brought their kids with full confidence. Teachers hugged me during the walkthrough. Even the city inspector, Beverly, showed up just to shake my hand. "You built this like your name was carved into it," she said. "It might as well be." Then came the biggest surprise. The school board unveiled a commemorative plaque by the front entrance. In honor of Darren McCall, who protected this foundation before a single brick was laid. I didn't cry in that moment. But I did later, when Maya took a picture of it and said, "You didn't just save a building, Dad. You saved a generation." Clint Travers began serving his sentence at a federal correctional facility in Huntsville. Every appeal was denied. No one defended him. His name is now a cautionary tale in safety seminars across the state. As for the other whistleblowers, Kevin was offered a supervisor role with a top-tier firm in Austin. The others were hired by companies that valued their integrity. David Roy won a regional journalism award for his investigation. And me? I've never gone back to full-time construction. These days, I consult. I help write safety compliance training. I travel to schools and talk about the cost of doing what's right. But sometimes, I still drive past Willow Creek just before sunset. And I watch the kids run across the playground, their laughter echoing through the air. Their feet hit pavement I personally approved. And I sleep at night. Because I didn't just pour concrete. I laid down truth. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.